How many of you are on a gluten diet, a gluten-free diet? Thank you for joining us today. You are going to love the opening of the show where I teach a little bit about gluten sensitivity. Then Kyle Drew and I are going to be talking about the MTHFR gene. We'll teach you what that's all about. Hives and antifungals, itchy ears, things like that. Kyle and I, we get these questions from Facebook. Every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, I do a live show for 1 hour on Facebook. Then Daniel Crouch is going to teach us about Kegel exercises. Let's see, what else? My favorite book. We're going to teach you one of my favorite books. And then a dentist who says we need to begin questioning all this amalgam we put in our mouth. Jam-packed show, I guarantee you. Thanks for joining us. My name is Doug Kaufman. For the past 40 years, I've dedicated my life and even my career to finding the root cause of disease. Join me in a team of physicians, pharmacists, and scientists, and soon you too will know the cause. You know, when you get my age and you've worked in one field for a long period of time, I'm going on my 47th year in this field, you see a lot of things come and go. I remember maybe it was the 70s where gluten enteropathy, gluten sensitivity was a big deal. And then, poof, it disappeared. It's back. Folks, here's what's happening. The first few patients gave a blood test and they saw anti-gluten antibodies in their blood, so the doctor said, wow, you must have a gluten problem, be allergic to gluten. So they went off wheat and other, barley and wheat or something, and they begin feeling much, much better. And so just blanket across America right now, you're going to a doctor and saying, wow, I got stomach problems or breathing problems. And the doctor is saying, I think you might be gluten sensitive. I want you to go home and go off wheat. Wheat's in everything. I once learned that table pepper is like 20% wheat. It's in everything. And so these people go home and they go off all wheat, and sure enough, in a few days, they feel great. And doctors say, see, you have gluten sensitivity. Do you really? Is this gluten thing blown totally out of control? I've seen beer with gluten-free written on it. I mean, I've seen candy that's gluten-free. Remember, gluten-free is corn okay? Is yeast okay? Is sugar okay? So after a few weeks on this gluten-free diet, wheat-free diet, they begin to feel kind of punk again without realizing that it's the corn and the sugar maybe that's making them feel punk. Why? What is it in corn and sugar? It's mycotoxins, it's fungal metabolites that might have caused the problem in the first place. So just walk down this road with me. As you're watching this, keep in mind that as a doctor, if all you own is a hammer, then the whole world looks like a nail to you, right? No screws out there, just nails. Okay, here we go. So gluten sensitivity, get this, researchers presenting at the 2016 United European, not American, Gastroenterology Conference have identified a group of non-gluten proteins that can trigger symptoms of asthma, MS, chronic pain, and more. If not gluten, what is it in wheat that's causing the sickness associated with eating it? Folks, that has to be the answer. Now, you and I, because you've been a viewer of Know the Cause for many, many years, Doug, this is a no-brainer. Wheat, you are teaching us, often has mycotoxins in it. All these people going off wheat and feeling better, was it gluten or was it going off the poisons that are deposited in the wheat during harvest or after harvest while they're sitting in silos? I think it's the mycotoxins, but they don't. There's got to be something in that wheat that's causing these reactions, and if it's not gluten, they're going to dig. And in Europe, they're digging, and here's what they're blaming it on. Researchers believe that perhaps another protein, a different one in wheat, called amylase trypsin inhibitors, might cause the symptoms. They're always thinking something that is in this wheat. They're not thinking mycotoxins. The ATIs, amylase trypsin inhibitors, are a small group representing about 4% of wheat proteins, but they are powerful, says this group. It just will never cease to amaze me. If you don't know fungus, do you really know nutrition? Do you really know health? Do you really know clinical medicine? If you don't know fungus. So what is extracted from every doctor's education? Mycology, the study of fungus. Lots of bacteria, lots of virus. Okay, vaginal yeast, ringworm, jock itch, toenail fungus. That's the only way yeast can impact you. Wrong. I think it causes cancer. And I have some data that's very, very compelling, as you know. So go with me on this last slide. Researchers believe, hey, let's stop this nonsense. Mycotoxins inhibit wellness. They can make us sick, and not a specific enzyme like ATIs. Wheat is loaded with mycotoxins, yet the word mycotoxin in this European convention did not appear either in the article or in the convention. Folks, when I'm teaching physicians at some of these meetings, I mean, it's absolutely amazing when you see their faces. The question arises, are mushrooms okay? Well, I don't really know, but they're fungus. They're not a vegetable, so I'd avoid them. Do antibiotics cause problems? Dr. Costantini with the World Health Organization said antibiotics are actually mycotoxins, and mycotoxins cause cancer. Wow. When you look out at this crowd of the most educated, wonderful people you've ever met, our doctors, they represent all of our doctors. It's amazing to me how those huge brains hold all this information, but how they also miss the most important course in medical education. Okay, mycotoxins are in wheat. End of story. Okay, Kyle Drew joins me right now all the way from Oklahoma City. Congratulations on the radio show.
Thanks.
I hear it's Super Health.
Super Health.
It's going very, very well. Super guy. And I like to have him help me with the questions. We try and do on our website, knowthecause.com. Every week I like to go live. I love live. Something about the energy, the epinephrine, you know, flowing through your veins. And I like to do live and answer your questions. I can't get them all done. So we're going to answer some of them here on TV right now. I would like for you to address MTHFR, which you call
mother, father.
Right. Any suggestions you have regarding treatment would be appreciated. Ask Michelle. So I looked it up. Methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase. So I hope that answers your question. Next one. What in the world? You're a methylator or you're not a methylator.
Yeah,
right?
and where this can really come into play is, let's say that you are pregnant or trying to become pregnant, and if you become pregnant, you know that you're supposed to take stuff like folic acid. But if you are not able to take, if you are positive for this gene, you may not have folic acid doing what it needs to do for your baby. You need a methylfolate. There are certain supplements that are methyl B12, methionine, trimethylglycine, dimethylglycine. There's a lot of these methyl donor supplements. A lot of people feel energy for the first time when they start taking these. A lot of times it's because they're positive for this gene. And so, but it particularly for people who have heart disease and those who are trying to get pregnant, you might change and tweak your supplementation around if you're positive for this.
Yeah, tell the OBGYN, you know, that you're...
But if you are, by the way, every study that I've seen shows that things like mycotoxins can exacerbate the problem over and over again. So genetics loads the gun, lifestyle fires it.
Good. Okay, next question. What does it mean when you break out with hives after taking an antifungal?
You got one that worked.
Right, you got one that worked. It means you're probably up to here with mold.
Yeah.
Put an antifungal in, boom. What is the skin? It's the largest organ in the body, right? It covers all the other organs and holds us in place. So when you get urticaria or hives, when you take an antifungal, that means you got some deep fungal problems usually. Now, allergic reactions or adverse events from taking an antifungal rarely exist. So I'd talk to my doctor about that, but most people would take something like nystatin, kind of a drug that doesn't have side effects, and then break out in hives. Usually that means that's a die-off reaction. Go slowly, but talk to your doctor about continuing on them. And be careful with the diet. Starve those guys.
When I first moved here, I was doing my radio show from this studio, and I would come in Saturday mornings at 7 o'clock. I had been taking some antifungals, and I was swollen up. My face was huge. My eyes were barely able to open. And I finished the radio show, went outside, and Doug and his wife, who I'd never met yet, pulled up. It's like, nice to meet you, Ruth. And I looked like a crazy guy. But yeah, what I knew was that this stuff was working, the antifungals that I was taking, and sometimes that just happens.
You will experience, so many people, I think 20% of people will experience some die-off urticaria or hives, sometimes is a die-off. And finally, I have itchy ears and constant sinus problems. I've been, by the way, I hear this so much. I've been on several antibiotics past 4 months. Okay, there you go. I've been taking oregano, but it doesn't seem to be doing much. What else can I do? Asked Mindy. Man, the sinus, you got the ears and so where are the sinus spaces, right? Where are the ears? I mean, it's all right here, right? Mindy's probably talking like that. This is why I went out and found Dr. Dennis. He's out in Georgia, in Atlanta, Georgia, and this guy is a face specialist. He began years ago going into people's sinuses, putting windows in, and he saw this black or this white gunk, and he started pulling it out, and the people got so much better. You may, Mindy, be one of these people. I don't know where you live, but it would certainly behoove you to look into Sinus Defense, his products, his Citra drops, and so forth. He's on our website. He has an ad running on our website, and he's really a good guy.
Yeah, and all of those things work together. Sometimes I've even taken a Q-tip, hydrogen peroxide, and have done this a little bit if ever there's some itching ears, but really it's the whole problem, and the stuff that you just talked about right in the sinuses can get it directly.
And you like better than a neti pot, you like a push.
I do.
Something that pushes,
much more.
Yeah,
much
really
more.
cleans you out. Thank you, Kyle,
Thank
for
you.
coming in today. Thank you for the great questions. I hope. And that's only half the show. Now we're going to talk about Kegel exercises, something I do when I'm driving long distances, okay? And then we're going to talk about my favorite book. And then Dr. David Kennedy, a dentist, we're Skyping him live from San Diego. So let's go.
Hello, Know the Cause Nation. I'm Daniel Crouch with your Lifestyle Moment. So, as always, we talk with Doug. We're like, what can we address? How can we help people? What problems can we answer? And we're talking about Kegel or Kegeling. And for those of you that don't know, your Kegel muscles are the ones that, well, okay, imagine that you're at a dinner party with all your best friends and people that you're trying to impress, and you have gas, and you're trying not to let that gas out. So what do? You kind of hold in like that. Those are your Kegel muscles. That's what I want you to think about. You're trying to hold in gas. The other component to that is that you're trying to, if somebody's going to hit you in the stomach with a baseball bat, you're trying to absorb. So if I absorb the baseball bat to the stomach, and I also try to hold in gas, that is Kegeling. Now, what that looks like from the front here is if I'm just kind of hanging out and not doing anything special, my stomach is kind of distended. So if I imagine that imaginary baseball bat, boom, is coming here, I'm going to turn the front muscles on, and I'm going to hold the gas in that I'm trying to keep in from the bottom, so I'm doing a front and a bottom protection. That's Kegeling. Okay, now, how does this apply to my exercise? Well, anybody can just kind of let the belly out and do a couple squats, and you're not getting anything out of that. So imagine here, I'm focused, I'm intentional, I'm keeping my stomach active, and I'm holding in the gas that I'm trying not to embarrass myself with. Now, keeping those two things in mind, I'm going to go ahead and do a simple squat, okay? Strong, underneath the strong, and I'm going to go up and down, okay? Now, I would say this is 2 or 3 times harder than if I was just kind of You want to be intentional. So while you're doing any exercise, in this particular case, squats, strong stomach in the front, holding in my, any potential gas that's trying to come out from the bottom, and then I do my perfect up and down. It's so much more intentional, and I can feel all the little muscles, and there's got to be thousands of little muscle fibers under there that are activated, that are turning on, that are engaged as I'm moving through the planes of motion. So the next time you do an exercise, any exercise that we've learned here, be it dips or push-ups or lunges or squats, activate, be very intentional about the front of your stomach, the imaginary baseball bat, you're ready for it, and then hold in the gas so you don't embarrass yourself at the party, and then do the exercise. That's going to make sure that you keep all your muscles in the bottom, your bottom area, that hold in your inner organs, which are very important, and also help you get rid of your excrement. And so, later on in life, we want to make sure that we have the ability to cleanly get things out. And so if the muscles aren't strong, they can't press the waste out. So strong muscles in your area, your digestive tract, are very important. And how do you strengthen them? By being intentional through your exercise. Being intentional through your exercise. Can't wait to hear how this is going for you. I know it's revolutionized my exercise. I always wondered why I couldn't get the results I wanted. And then I was like, be intentional about your core. Your core is the soul of your body. So turn it on as you exercise, I know you're gonna see big dramatic changes. Come check us out soon. We're always gonna have wonderful tips for you. I'm Daniel Crouch on the Lifestyle Moment for Know the Cause.
So here's a segment I think you're going to enjoy because our producer said, tell us about books that you like. There's someone that called me probably 3 years ago. I got my phone number from our staff and I spoke with her and she said, you are absolutely right on your cancer fungus hypotheses. And a lot of people tell me that. I want to give them a hug over the phone because I know I'm right. It's pretty well documented now. But this was somebody special. Her name was Migdalia Arnon. She was a physician, and more importantly, she was a pathologist. So she had been researching cancer for decades and decades and came up with a book called Cancer Biology, a study of the pathogenesis of cancer, how dangerous it is, how it affects our tissues. Nice picture of her on the back of this. I couldn't believe we were talking, and she said, Doug, you and I have come to the same conclusion. I, only a few years ago, it sounds like you about 30 years ago, but we have come to the same conclusion. She sent me a copy of this book, and I tell you, I give it away to doctor friends of mine so that they can confirm my hypotheses. Her chapter 10 in here, I wish I could show it to you, is cancer and fungus. As I'm reading this, she opens with, I have wanted to resolve a disease like cancer all of my life. And then she goes into fungus. And folks, I'm telling you, this is the most compelling chapter, I believe, in the whole book, but the rest of the book, the 9 chapters, are a lead up to it. It is called Cancer Biology by Dr. Arnon, A-R-N-A-N. If you can get a copy of it, maybe eBay, maybe one of the book sites, etc., Amazon, it is an invaluable tool for any of you researching not only what you can do about your cancer, because she doesn't go into diet here, but what cancer is. She and I have merged so many ideas through the years. I just love this pathologist. It's called Cancer Biology. Joining me right now is a man that I met and totally impressed me at a meeting. I was giving a talk on fungus and cancer, and sitting in the back of the audience was a distinguished-looking gentleman. His name was David Kennedy. I had no idea he was a dentist, but he stood up and made a couple of comments, and I remember looking at my son who was sitting next to me and saying, Ethan, I need this guy on TV. I need this guy on social media. He is a dentist, folks, who believes what I believe. What happened to neurotoxic mercury being part of that amalgam that dentists forever have put in? And why do we suffer from gum disease at the rate we do, or dental decay at the rate that we do? This doctor has some of the answers. Now, I want you to listen carefully. Dr. Kennedy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
Why? You quoted something that 90% of Americans suffer from some form of gum infection or oral disease. Wow, that blows me away.
It's a lucrative business to be in dentistry, but they don't treat the disease. They treat the symptoms of it. You know, that they take a knife out. But if you look at the degree, it's doctor of dental surgery. So whatever's wrong, it's going to get cut out. If you got a cavity, we're going to cut it out. You got bad gums, we're going to cut them off. You got teeth that are crooked, we're going to pull them out. So cut, cut, cut. And that doesn't solve the need of the people to be well. It just helps the profession to cut.
Do you still practice what a dear dental friend of mine calls wet finger dentistry?
No, I've retired from the clinical practice. I think it's dangerous, actually. I was always very careful with mercury and wore the then available equipment, but I still tested high for mercury. That even being as careful as I was high. The poor dental students today going to school are nuked in their school classrooms with mercury. It's against the law, and you can't get the dental schools to stop it. They say, well, they're going to be exposed sooner or later anyway.
Well, what was your epiphany? You're laying in bed one night, and you said, holy cow, this stuff's neurotoxic. I got to start pulling it out. Did you ever take amalgam out? They wear the dam and you wear the double mask and gloves and so forth. Did you do that?
Oh yeah, all the time. But but my epiphany was sort of a slow unfolding thing from the 60s. The standard, there were no standards for mercury exposure in the 60s, and the Navy came up with 100 parts per million, which now is the flee the area. And so then that turned into William Rookwell at the EPA in 73 says 1 part per million safe. Then a baby was poisoned nearly to death at 2. So they said, oh no, that 1 part per million is only for 8-hour days. So they went down to 0.3. And, then they said, well, no exposure is safe. And so it evolved over a decade or two, kind of like lead, where, not enough to hurt you if you didn't die. And then, a little tiny bit makes your children stupid and violent. So it's an evolution, if you will.
You're speaking right now to a good-sized audience. We have been absolutely blessed in putting together an audience this size, and you're in major cities. So with a couple of minutes we have left, teach the viewer what they need to talk to their dentist about. Do we have any rights once we sit down in that chair and the big x-ray machine comes at us?
You do, but they're often ignored. You have a right to know exactly what the filling's made out of. You have a right to say no if they want to use something that you're allergic to or you don't want. It's not a silver filling. That is a consumer deception. It's mercury, 50%, and the laws require you list the first ingredient first. So if you have black or silver fillings in your teeth, that's not right. But don't get the same fool to take them out that put them in. Because if you grind that thing up and inhale it, you can, one of my videos, we talk about a lady that developed permanent Parkinson's from simply having her mercury fillings carelessly removed. A physician friend of mine developed idiopathic dilated cardiomyopathy after getting his fillings removed. IDCM is the most common reason to need a heart transplant. If you grind up and analyze an IDCM heart, it has 22,000 times more mercury in it than a normal heart.
See, this is
to allow that to happen.
This is exactly where I wanted you to go. And folks, if you enjoyed this 5 minutes, I've got really good news for you. You can go online to YouTube, David Kennedy DDS, and look at all these educational videos he's put together. He even has a book. It's on PDF. Look him up. Stay in touch with this man. He knows what's going on in dentistry. Thank you, Dr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Doug.
You bet. Isn't he an amazing doctor, Dr. Kennedy? He wanted to be on this show because of our massive audience. He wanted to start teaching, hoping that his words would fall upon not only us, but to dentists as well. And I think that's important, and that's why we wanted him on the show. I met him at a lecture I gave in San Diego. Thank you so much, Kyle, for being here. Thank you, Daniel, for being here. Kegel exercises are one of those strange things, but guys, I got to tell you, it really works, especially if you're a truck driver, somebody who sits in a car long distances. We love to drive back and forth to see the kids, and you sit in the car for a long period of time. What have you learned? If you're a long-term viewer of Know the Cause, you know every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Central Time, we do a live show for 1 hour, and you can type in your questions, and I try and address them all. You also learn that you're beginning to know the cause, right? Always question a diagnosis. Don't question the doctor, but ask the doctor, could fungi or their poisons be causing this disease? God bless you guys. I'll see you next time. Thanks for telling your friends.